America great again. When has America been great for African Americans in the ghetto of America? Are you aware how tone deaf that comes off to African American community?
Well, I can say this, we have tremendous African-American support. You've probably seen it in the polls. We're doing extremely well with African-American, Hispanic-American at levels that you've rarely seen a Republican have. If you talk about Make America Great, if you look at just prior to, and I'm talking about for the black community, you look just prior to this horrible situation coming in from China, when the virus came in, that was probably the highest point, home ownership for the black community. Home ownership, lower crime, the best jobs they've ever had, highest income, the best employment numbers they've ever had. If you go back and you want to look over many years, you could just go back 6 or 7 months from now. That was the best single moment in the history of the African-American people in this country. I think, I would say.
Well, I mean, your statement is, though, make it great again. So historically, the African-American experience, especially in these ghettos that have been redlined, historically, these ghettos that have systemically been set up and treated the way that they have been, the conditions of the drugs, the guns, and everything else that actually created the symptoms for what we see, that you profess to be just the democratic cities in themselves. These things have historically been happening for African Americans in these ghettos, and we have not been seeing a change. Quite frankly, under your administration, under the Obama administration, under Bush, under the Clinton, the very same things happen, and the very same systems and cycles continue to ensue. And we need to see, because you say again, we need to see when was that great, because that pushes us back to a time in which we cannot identify with such greatness. And I mean, you've said everything else about choking and everything else, but you have yet to address and acknowledge that there's been a race problem in America.
So if you go, well, I hope there's not a race problem. I can tell you there's none with me.
What the hell is wrong with him?
All races, for everybody. This country is great because of it. But when you go back 6 months and you take a look at what was happening, you can't even compare that with past administrations. When you look at income levels and a lot of things because of the job situation where
he asked you about again, honey. Answer the part about again.
Community by far, and that was solving.
Just answer that part.
And you know what else it was? It was bringing people together. I was starting
I'm about
to
to
get,
cut this
just
off.
before this was, we were having a long run of success. I was starting to get calls from Democrats that, hey, it's starting to work. Let's get together. People that you would never have thought this would have happened with. There was going to be unity. But unfortunately, that was hurt because we got set back. And now, I think next year is going to be one of our best years economically.
Oh,
shit. But income equality is higher. So, I mean, jobs can be produced, but at the same time, in a lot of these big major cities where African Americans are underserved, under-resourced, that's an $8 job. Does not mean that they can necessarily afford to live where they have to live or where they've been living at for the last 20 years.
Well, the income inequality, which I agree with you, is a problem. I always agreed with that. But if you look under President Obama and Biden, the income inequality was phenomenal. It was record-setting. It's getting worse now. Well, we're talking about a plague coming in. Before the plague, we were doing very well. Now, we will soon be doing well again because we're going to have a fantastic third quarter. You're seeing the numbers come in. I think you're going to have a GDP that's
I'm stopping.
mid-20s
This
and
shit
maybe
is
much higher.
ridiculous.
Somebody said 35. I don't know. These are all records we're talking about. And you're going to have a very good, economically, you're going to have a very good year next year. But I agree with a lot of the things you say, but you have to look back because we really had it going well. Had we not been hit by this horrible disease that came into our land, and all over the world, by the way, came all over the world, we would be in a position where I think income inequality would be different. It was really getting there. We were really driving.
Bye. Bye.